everyone, it's LG, and I'm back with a new video and another excellent guest. Today we have Corey Mishak, who's currently a teacher at Jesse Bessel High School in Vallejo, and also an offensive coordinator and receivers coach for the KT Pups 7-on-7 middle school team. Welcome, Corey.
Glad to be here, Lauren. I'm elated. I can't even get out the words. I'm so excited.
I know we were just talking about it, but we went to high school together. It's been over a decade. I don't think I've had any classes with you, but the only thing I remember was being in Mr. Hook's class for homeroom. That's probably
Yeah,
like
right.
the only other thing I got in my memory.
I'm going to say this. I don't think you got enough credit in high school. I'm going to be honest with you because you were on ASB. I remember you were trying to bring the energy and the spirit, and teenagers suck. Let's just be real. You were
Yeah.
trying to make it cracking for everybody, and people used to be like, "Oh, I don't want to hear it," but it was like, that takes a lot of energy and a lot of desire to want to do that. And so I wanted, give you your roses on that because as a teacher now, I see it, and I'm like, we needed people like you. You reached a lot of people, whether you realize it or not. So kudos to you. Although we didn't have class together, I was always hearing you on the loudspeaker, so I felt like I knew you.
Thank you so much. I think it's interesting now that you're on the flip side as a teacher, as an educator. I just wanted to give you the floor and share a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Definitely. Well, you said we both went to St. Pat's. I didn't take the traditional route. As you know, a lot of kids at St. Pat's, a lot of them went to school together since kindergarten. But I wasn't. I went to Franklin. There was only like a few kids that came with me to St. Pat's. And so it was a culture shock. Educationally, I was used to being one of the smarter kids in class, and going there was like everybody's got it. So it was a challenge in that sense. And then also, I'm going from a place where you're part of the majority as a person of color, coming to a school where you don't see too many people that look like you. When you do, there's a handful. That experience in itself was very interesting. I had my ups and downs, I guess you could say, with how I felt about St. Pat's now as an adult, thinking about microaggressions, fulfilling stereotypes. I talk to Simone all the time. Me and Simone are still very close, and I can still remember her telling me in high school, don't be the stereotype. It's fulfilling for that. And I didn't quite understand that or grasp that. And so now, as an adult, I look back and I'm like, okay, I'm in this area where I'm only being celebrated if I'm like entertaining. I'm not seeing myself be celebrated for NHS or getting
Academic stuff.
awards. Yeah, I'm not seeing that. My freshman year, I didn't play football at St. Pat's. I was treated completely differently from when I did start to play football. People started knowing my name, wanting to hang out with me, and that rubbed me the wrong way. At one point, I just kind of succumbed to it. I guess this is who I got to be liked. So let me be the clown. Let me be getting in trouble. Let me do stuff like not wear my polo on purpose and go to class late. Like fulfill these stereotypes of being late as a Black person, or only being a clown, or being some type of amusement for others, instead of just being okay with myself. And I can even remember making fun of other Black kids because they didn't fulfill it. They're like straight laced. We would kind of even criminalize them as being like less Black because you're not over here with us. You over there reading. We're not reading. We over here posted up on the wall, looking cool, but we still got on khakis and polo. So
Yeah, no, I feel it. And even then, like, it's interesting to see that there's still an us versus them.
yeah, absolutely. But I'm thankful for those experiences. I wasn't always the best student, but I proved otherwise. We had 144 students in our graduating class, but we had like 180 something like
Yeah.
freshman year. I used to be ashamed to say this, but I'm not ashamed anymore. I graduated number 137 out of 144. So my GPA was not the highest, but I'm proud to say I have a master's degree now and a bachelor's degree. So, you know, shout
Hey,
out to
I
me.
see you.
That's part of the inspiration because I tell my student athletes all the time, I was Mr. Ineligible. I was smart, but I just didn't take to traditional methods. I needed something different. So that's part of the reason I became a teacher. I'm inspired to reach the kids that were like me, that were on the cusp. I know I'm intelligent, but this format just doesn't work for me. That was, high school in a nutshell. I was able to go to community college. I bounced around a little bit. Went to college of Sequoias first, right when we graduated. I don't know if you remember, but I dislocated my kneecap twice at St. Pat's. Never got it repaired until 2010. So that kind of helped me back a little bit. That freshman year, I didn't
Yeah.
play, just gray shirted. I went to another junior college, Sierra College, didn't work out there. And then I found my forever home at America River. They
Okay.
helped me rehab my knee. I wouldn't be where I am today without that school. I'm gonna be honest with you. So from there, I earned my scholarship to Midland University in Nebraska, where I earned my bachelor's degree in sociology. And I became a feminist in 2014. I was just sharing this because I'm the advisor for the BSU. We had a meeting today.
Yeah.
And I was just sharing with them when I became a feminist. I said I started reading The Black Feminist Thought by Patricia Hill Collins, and it just opened my whole world to. You hear all these like stereotypes about what feminism is and what, and it's like it's nothing like that. That's like almost propaganda, like. So Midland was life changing for me. I went to the Midwest. I was in Nebraska.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay, this is the crazy thing. There was a couple people out there from Vallejo.
Did you know them?
Yeah, I
Oh
did. That
my
was the
God.
crazy. It was actually a dude that graduated from Bethel and a dude that graduated from Vallejo High that
Mm.
both played there. It kind of set the trail for me, but it was, like I said, another culture shock coming to a place where you've got people who are coming from towns of 500 and less. They've never seen people of color before. I had two teammates from South City. They're both Samoan. We were in Walmart and this dude was like, "What kind of Mexican are you?" And they just looked at him like, "What?" You're ignorant, but at the same time, you just don't know. It was definitely one of those, you get what you make out of it. And I took that as an opportunity to be somebody different. That's actually where I got my start teaching, was in that 2012, 2013 window. You remember Philip Logan?
Yes.
Shout out to my boy Phil. You ever see this? He's the
Hey.
reason that I'm a teacher to this day. Phil got me into teaching after I got done at American River. He was like, "Yeah, you want to come work this job?" I'm thinking I'm like gonna be a counselor or something. And we actually flew to Tennessee for 10 days and we got hands-on classroom management training, lesson planning, Black history, American history,
Yeah.
things that I've never known. And the caveat on it all, we were on Alex Haley's farm in Tennessee. He's the author of The Roots.
Another door that has just opened and it becomes a rabbit hole for you.
Right, right. It was like, whoo, whoo, whoo. That's how I felt. I got my scholarship. I got this great job. I found my passion. And I didn't even know at the time what was happening. I was just kind of like in the moment, just absorbing it. When I got my scholarship offer and I called my mom and I just cried. I was like, my dream is coming true. I got it. And she's like, "I know you did it." I'm like, "No, like I did it for real." I'm almost getting emotional thinking about it
Yeah.
because that was my dream. I want to make it to a school, get my education paid for. That time period, I still remember that day. It was like the beginning of where I progressed to where I am today. So
What was your initial thought about what your future was going to be when you were done with high school?
oh my goodness, I had no clue. When I think back to 17, 18-year-old me, I was riding that wave of being a high school athlete, being the center of attention. And then it was like real life hit and it was just like, none of that matters. The relationships that I could have built with people like you know, who went on to do great things, not that we still can't, but like I didn't open myself up to those things. I was like closed off. If it's not this type of lifestyle, I don't want anything to do with it. If we're not talking about this, I don't want to engage in that conversation. And it's kind of painstaking at times because I'm like, that's not who I am now. But back then I felt I was being someone I wasn't, but I was being myself at the same time.
You look back, hindsight is 2020, and you learn from that. But I feel like very similar to coming from St. Pat's. I didn't like the fact that I was in the middle of a bunch of Filipinos from Vallejo. And then another thing was I wasn't Catholic. So,
Really?
I'm non-denominational Christian. I already felt out because all of these other Filipinos were Catholic. This is embarrassing to go up, cross my arms, go walk away, and I don't get any wine.
Let me ask you a question because it's something that I've kind of observed in Vallejo. There is a strong Filipino presence. I know that there's an interesting relationship between Filipinos who are from Vallejo, Filipinos who are coming to America for the first time. How was that dynamic? How did you work within that, especially like with religion wrapping around you?
That's a good question.
So I think in terms of
I'll just say this. Filipinos come from like this colonial mentality because they were colonized by the Spanish. That sort of mentality becomes a place to aspire to, like this whiteness. And
Right.
I think that's the divide in the Filipino community, to acknowledge that we are people that were colonized. And if you don't understand that, you're kind of living in this fake world. You don't understand that you trying to like whiten your skin or you trying to assimilate becomes problematic, right? And then the other thing about that is, in terms of understanding my identity as like a Filipino American versus Filipino, I don't speak Tagalog. I don't understand Tagalog. So personally, that makes me less Filipino because I don't understand the language. I would go to like some friend's house during high school, and the first thing that their moms would ask me are like, "Do you understand Tagalog?" Or like, "Are you Catholic?" Hello, auntie. Thank you for trying to check me as soon as I step into your door and take off my shoes.
Wow.
Right? I've gotten used to the fact that I'm not a typical Filipino, but I think that has been a process that I struggled with getting out of St. Pat's, going to college, and like not taking the traditional model minority route. There are other things that I'm interested in. It was just the fact that I was in an environment where all of these other Filipino people were trying to apply to like UCs,
Right.
shit like that. That's all I know. I'm also first gen going to college, so I have no idea. So that is my experience in those aspects, being Filipino, or just trying to like understand where I fall within that. It's very interesting to see too, like you also struggle race or ethnicity wise, where you fit.
Yeah. Definitely, definitely. For me, it's something I've always recognized. And like when you hit on the head with colonialism, that's where I think all of us as people of color, it's unfortunate that we all have this in common, but we are all the product of colonialism and post-traumatic slave syndrome and things of that nature. And like when I see these names on the roll sheet, it gets hard because you don't know if this kid is Mexican, you don't know if this kid is Salvadorian, Filipino, like you don't know. You just see a name and it started to kind of click. I'm like, there's a lot of Filipinos with Spanish surnames, but then you hear like the indigenous names with like very hard C's and strong G sounds, and it's like, makes you think for a second, like, this is interesting.
All the experience that you've had, what led you to do a master's?
First, I'll say I was my grandmother's and my grandfather's on my mom's side, their first grandkid to graduate from college. There's 6 or 7 of us, and I'm the youngest boy, so that was an accomplishment. My grandmother, she passed away 2016 RIP, but she got to watch me cross the stage, and so that for me was a special moment. My mom always told me, the bachelor's degree is mine, but whatever you do after that is yours. This kind of leads into the story of how I met my fiance. Again, I was in Nebraska. My college football season had ended. It didn't end the way that I wanted it to. I was the man my junior year, and then my senior year, me and the coach were at odds and I didn't play as much. So I can remember my last game. I remember praying and saying, God, if this is the path that you've chosen for me, I ain't gonna cry about it. I'm gonna just work hard, and I'm never gonna give somebody the opportunity to deny me again. And that's when I dove into my education. I finished undergrad with a 3.5, like my highest GPA. So I was proud. I ended up applying for school in Nebraska to University of Nebraska, Omaha, because I'm like, my rent is $200. I'm gonna milk this. And it was a drought in California. So I was like, I don't know if I want to come back. And then I remember one night I was on Snapchat and I saw her name is Jasmine. I saw her on my friend's Snap, and they were roommates at the time. We had just got done with a party. Cali house, we had it cracking. That was one of those nights, and I saw her, so I was a little bit inebriated still. But I called her. I was like, Lex, where my wife at? And she heard me. I must have spent the best game of my life. I got her number, and that's when I found out a couple months before we both graduated. And she was like, yeah, I'm about to go to law school. And I was like, light bulb.
Oh, law school. Okay. You're smart, huh?
Facts. I ended up coming back home that summer, and I never left. We did a long distance thing because she went to school in LA. She went to Southwestern Law
Yeah.
School. And I worked for like the first 6 months when I got back. I worked at a nonprofit where I got my start as a teacher. And I was applying to graduate schools and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I wasn't 100% sure I wanted to teach. I'm cool at it, but do I really want to do this? Nah. I can't remember the experience that I had, but I remember talking to my grandmother and saying that I can get my master's degree in education. The year I applied was a year before she passed away. So I got accepted in January, spring of 2016, and it was just like the beginning. I ended up taking those courses and started writing my master's thesis. I just had it in my mind. I have this experience with this population of Black and brown boys that are struggling, but we've been able to uplift with this master plan of self-love, expression, being able to conquer toxic masculinity and talk about our feelings and stuff like that. It was all built into my plan, but it was really from a coach's mindset. So we started bridging gaps. And as I'm doing my master research, I find this book actually. Let me shout out to Dr. Jeff Duncan Andrade, What the Coaches Can Teach the Teacher. This book right here was like all my ideas. Somebody already wrote them down. I just had to confirm. So that's how I ended up earning my master's in urban education. I was actually going to be a science teacher because, there's a lack of representation for people of color in STEM. And so I'm like, oh, and I'll get a job easily. Bet, let's do it. But there was one thing holding me back, that pesky test. Lauren, they had me taking tests for like anatomy and all kind of stuff. I was like, I just want to teach bio, but I've always had a love for science. And it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, like defeating stereotypes. I hid the fact that I loved science, and I used to walk around talking about I want to be an engineer, a mechanical engineer. Yeah. Somewhere along the lines, I got derailed. Mr. McCabe's class, environmental science was dope.
Yeah. The bark beetle stuff.
Oh my gosh, the bark beetles. All of that. I wanted to teach that because I wanted my people and people that look like me to be invested in science and the environment. And I got deterred. So let me stop there because that's going to take me on another tangent.
In terms of you currently being an instructor now and all of these like life experiences that have kind of played a role in you learning about yourself, how do you see that manifesting itself by the way that you lead by example?
it could come full circle once again. So when I first started teaching in 2013, those kids are now seniors in high school right now. Blew my mind. I was 21. I had them every year, every summer from 2013 to last summer. I was able to kind of see those kids through from third grade, fourth grade, all the way to 12th grade now. And to hear them come back to me and tell me, oh, I remember when you told me about that. And I'm like, you remember that? Or you told me how the football schedule was or how college was. You explained that to me. And I had this vision and I kept it. And those same kids texting me, I got accepted into Sonoma State. I got accepted at Xavier. And I'm like, it just kind of melted me inside. I'm like, wow, I influenced that kid's life. It was two students in particular, Bradley and Sion. Shout out to both of you guys. They were two young men who didn't have the perfect home situation, didn't have a two-parent home. And so they really grasped to me and Phil as like brothers, fathers, and uncle figures. And just kind of seeing how that played out now, as I'm even talking about it, was like the defining moment for me. Like, this is where my passion is, and being able to see the effect that I have when I walk into a room, because I can even remember as a kid when I saw a black teacher, a black male teacher, which was rare. You're just like, what's up? Like I'm interested already. It's not normal, or typical, I should say. It's not typical. And so I was blessed enough to have two in middle school, and one of them passed away, Dr. Abdul Malik. And then Mr. Harris, he's still here. So I had the pleasure of actually teaching alongside my eighth grade history teacher when I was at Vallejo High School. So he saw me the same way that I saw those kids. So he had that same proud moment. Like, that's a kid I influenced who's now doing influencing.
Yeah. Seeing that and hearing that you're able to make a positive influence on those lives, that's freaking amazing. And also humbling at the same time, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I've never felt so full. I tell my students all the time, when you're successful, it's like me scoring a touchdown. And I was like, that's like my love right there. So if I'm scoring and I'm happy, like, that's how happy I am for you. Best believe that your success means something to me. So taking those same principles that I even learned in community college from one of the greatest coaches of all time, Gerald Hayflick, another big shout out. He used to say, celebrate your success, man. Celebrate it. And he would celebrate with us. And I didn't even realize how much of a world of a difference that made to see him happy for me. And so I celebrate that same way with my students. And it's funny, actually, because when I was coaching at Vallejo High School, I had a couple seniors. We took them up to the Sac State spring football game. My coach is now retired. He's an alumni at Sac State. He was there speaking. I had no idea. So I got my players up there and I like ran up to him. I'm like, coach. And he like picked me up and hugged me. And it was just like that moment of my players seeing the person that I'm telling them about enact that same thing that I'm trying to give to them. And so I just had all these moments that just kept coming back and forth where something from my past came to my future, or vice versa.
Yeah. And then you could share that with your kids. Like, see, look, like this is why I'm doing what I do.
Exactly.
I do want to ask, you have a class antics stories on Instagram. And my favorite one is of you being Kel from Good Burger. So can you tell me what is it that you do that you engage with your students? Because I know that you're very inspiring, but you're still a top clown.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? So, just want to do this one last time because I haven't done it for everybody. Welcome to the Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order? Yeah.
So I was Ed from Good Burger. I actually was trying to be him the year before, but I didn't order the wig in time.
You got to make it
Right.
good. So
Gotta make it good, right? So like, I'm not gonna do it bad. So it all actually worked out because 2018, I got my first teaching job at Jesse Bethel, teaching 10th and 11th grade. So those kids were amazing and they were just the right class and right speed for me. So like when I came in, they were just old enough to know who Ed from Good Burger was. And Good Burger was streaming on Netflix, so they all kind of knew. It's just me being me, my most authentic self. And I wrote that in my master thesis. You've got to be your most authentic self, because not only are you trying to engage your student, but you're modeling for those students that it's okay for them to be themselves. I'm not up here trying to be hecka cool with you, like, what's up, bro? No, this is me. This is me. Like today in class alone, I listened to Panic at the Disco. I write Sins Not Tragedies, and we sang that as a class because that's just what we do. I would just take like mini breaks in between class and do that, because when I was a student, I didn't have that ultimate focus all the time. I need a little breather and then come back to it. And I'm like, okay, whatever I bring to the classroom is what I'm going to get out of the classroom. So,
and I guess, how does that translate now into the world of virtual things when we're talking about quarantine stuff?
it is hard. I'm a sociology major. I feed off behavior, body language. I can't see that. I struggle at times because I'll just go because nobody's stopping me. Nobody has a weird look on their face like, I'm confused, but I'm not gonna say I'm confused. I try to be super duper hyped and amped up. I play music. Last week we had a short week and I was just like, Friday, like, let's have fun today. I let them draw, like, first I just had them draw like random stuff. Draw a kangaroo fighting a human. And then I was just like, all right, self-deprecation, it's all right.
Yeah.
Threw that picture in there and they went to town on me, but it showed them that, obviously I'm a good sport. It's okay to laugh at yourself if you fall and make a mistake. It was just another opportunity for me to model my antics, but
I love how well-rounded you are in terms of the way that you present yourself to your kids. So that's super dope.
it takes a little bit of work. And I think a lot of people think it takes too much work. But if you look at it, just like be yourself, whatever you like, make it sound dope. If you make it sound dope, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's tight. Like I got kids who only want to listen to gangster rap and shoot them up, beat them up stuff. I had them listening to Hawthorne Heights and Cartel this morning. And they're like, oh man, I'm kind of getting with this. One of the songs, Say Anything Else by Cartel, lines are basically like coming of age. Who you are is not up to them, and stop getting yourself for the letdown. And like it got real quiet and everybody was just like, and nobody had left. I mean, it's like 3 or 4 minutes past class. They're really listening, and like 12 kids in the chat. What's the name of that song? What's the name of that song? Who wrote that? And I'm like, wow. I mean, I just exposed y'all to something else. And then you'll get a random student that says, thank you for that, because I wouldn't have had the courage to share my passion, which I guess you could say is atypical.
That's amazing, Corey.
So we do have some other things in common. Both of our partners, like we talked about, are attorneys. So how did you guys meet?
We met at a Vallejo garage party. Yeah,
Wow.
I know. It's perfect. I think that's
Brightest, most player stuff ever.
our mutual friend's grad party. She graduated from a master's program. I talked to him and I found out he's going to law school. The mutual friend, she was telling me to talk to him. Let's get something going on. That was that. So that was like almost 5 years ago. I think it was after his 1L year. I got an offer for a job in New York. I've been in New York for almost 3 years, but basically we did long distance for 2 years from California to New York. So you understand the experience of being with someone in law school while they're doing a relationship, taking care of themselves, trying to be everything else aside from the fact that they have to give like 1,000% to their dream of being an attorney. But not just doing that, you have to get your JD and then you have to study for the bar right after. There's no break in that. He just passed the bar and we are currently waiting on his bar number. Thank you. He's just trying to do the public defender route, fight the good fight. And I respect that so much. So that's just where we're at.
That's awesome. I mean, it sounds like you guys are a perfect match. I mean, I know, like I said, personally, it takes a lot of mental fortitude to be with someone in law school, let alone long distance. I think that's the key in it, is like having that support system, because for my fiance, she was just in LA. So, I mean, I'm just hours away. We saw each other obviously more often than you guys did, but there were times where I would have to tell her, like, stop talking to me, go study. You got work to do. I mean, not that I didn't have it, but my graduate program was nowhere near law school.
Yeah, I was also too in a program, in a master's program, but online. But I was like, damn, I don't know how you do it, but I want to stay with you because I want to see this through with you.
Yes, yes. I know you guys had your bumps. I did. I had mine, my first one, like immediately. I was like, I don't know. And she's like, no, we're gonna build together. And I was like, okay. I'm trusting you. And so it really, really paid off. And like, honestly, I'm thankful for the distance because we became friends. I wanted something real. I want to begin a partnership, like what you were saying.
Exactly.
I'm not just with you based on how you look or what you did for me or any of those things. So we became like genuine friends. And I think the distance allowed our relationship to grow in that way. Did you find it challenging when he was studying for the bar?
Yeah, we went through it twice.
2 times.
We went through it twice. Failure is a lesson, but it makes you stronger. It just takes time. The second time, there was COVID. Number one, it was postponed. And number two, it was online. Since Gabe moved to New York in March of last year, him and I had like a routine. He would study in the day, I would be working. We would take like walks in the afternoon together and just do that. But I was like, okay, I'm the one making all the money. You just go study. It's just being able to support your partner through their dream.
I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but it's like being a teacher, because we talk about it. Like I'll hear her conversations with her clients sometimes. It sounds like you're talking to one of my students. The logic, the 15-year-old thought process, and it's just like, it's crazy because I'm trying to prevent you from having to be in that situation, and then she's trying to help you out. So I think for our relationship, it's really interesting that when I got to Jesse Bethel, there's an academy system. The academy I get in, of course, Law Academy.
Yeah.
Now I'm teaching intro to law, and like it was really cool because when she was in law school, I got to actually watch her teach a street law class. And we tricked the kids and they didn't know that we were dating at the time. And then they're like, "Oh, I knew it." So it was really cool. And so I love the fact that like she's been able to be a mentor to some of my students. It's made me grow closer with my students because they'll see her picture behind the wall or something. And they'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, she's so pretty." And like, yeah, she's mean. Kind of going back to that passion thing, she got hired at the San Francisco Public Defender's Office, which is like one of the best in the land. I was telling her straight up, go do what you're passionate about. The money's going to be there. At times, I felt pressured to go do something else because I wasn't making as much money as she is. I'm
Sure.
working with Vallejo City Unified. This is a love job. If it was about the money, I'd be in some affluent district making 80, 90,000, but kids still suffering. I wanted that same energy back. So that's what I gave her, was that live your passion.
What's beautiful about your relationship is that you're both taking care of the community in different ways. Being able to serve others, but also focusing on yourself first, giving yourself that energy, and then being able to share it with others is so beautiful. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm looking at us now like we were on like polar opposite sides of the spectrum. Honestly, I feel closer to you than a lot of people that I thought I was close with. And as you get older and you become an adult, you're like, wow, you're really cool.
yeah.
I want to go on a double date with you and your partner now. Like, let's hang out for real type stuff because you guys are cool.
Oh
And I
my
don't even know him, but I know he's cool because he's got you.
Well, I do want to wrap up. You've dropped so many gold nuggets here. What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned personally or professionally?
One of the things I would say is preparedness. As a coach of 2017, we had a very, very good season in terms of academics at Vallejo High School. We had 45 kids remained eligible throughout the entirety of the football season. Never been done before. That was like one of the greatest accomplishments, but the greatest lesson at the same time. I put my heart and soul into that program. My mom and my dad were making sandwiches for these kids because they knew they weren't eating after games. I was so happy. And then it was like I hit a wall. And honestly, I was depressed for 3-4 months. I couldn't put two and two together. I'm like, why am I not being celebrated for the success that we had with these kids? We only won 3 football games, but we won in life. We're teaching these young men life. And that's what our staff looked at it like. We got into a really good close game against Benicia High. They wanted us because they thought we were weak. And they wanted us for homecoming, and we came out and we balled. We were tied up with them for a long time, but we just didn't have that last inch that we needed. And so after that game, we just kind of were like, all right, playoffs out the picture. We coaching life at this point. We got to get these young men ready when they leave this place. And so not getting that recognition, but seeing the kids talk to me and say, when are you coming back? Are you sure you're coming back? I didn't end up going back to Vallejo High because I couldn't face them. I couldn't face them and tell them that there's nothing I can do for you. I was used to being in this position to provide. And so what I learned from that situation ultimately was is that I have to be prepared for when an opportunity comes, because I wasn't fully prepared there. I didn't have my credential when I should have. I wasn't a full-time teacher. I just didn't have my life business taken care of. And I was trying to jump steps. Like, I want to go coach now, so I'm a coach now. And the benefit was, I got all the experience, but then I experienced a little bit of depression, not because wasn't successful, but because it was like I felt helpless. And I made that promise to myself. And when I was praying to God, and I said that I'm never going to put my future in somebody else's hands. And I did. So I have to be prepared for any opportunity. So I took a break. I haven't coached since, now it's my first time coming back to it because I just had to get my life together and get set. Now I'm in a position where I can look at it realistically and say I can dedicate this time and be the coach that I want to be. I would say probably that's one of the biggest lessons. And then don't always jump at the opportunity just because somebody tells you that you can do it. It's great. Don't get me wrong. Like, you can do whatever you want to do, but just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should.
I was actually talking to Brennan, and one of the things we talked about was this idea of healthy competition. And because we're both in like the same space, we see one another do something cool and we're like, I need to compete with that. But even if you see other folks or like they tell you about other things, maybe the timing isn't right, or maybe it manifests itself in a different way. Those lessons in terms of like not jumping the gun just to like do something because the opportunity is open is also a lesson in like patience. And I don't think we talk a lot about that because I feel like this world, this culture, this society is always like, go, go, go. But you don't take the opportunity to reflect on yourself, what's going on around you. You think about how you can do all of these things at once, but you realize you spread yourself too thin. So
Yes.
let that sink in for a little bit.
Right. I think there's something to be said about that social pressure that you feel, or like this ominous present, like, I gotta grind. Like, No, you gotta rest too. It's like you're not gonna be 20 something forever. And
Yeah.
I'm starting to realize that now as I'm looking at these kids that were born in 2005. Sometimes you gotta just be patient. And that's something I really learned from. A lot of my opportunities came from when I took my hands off of it. And I was just like, you know what? I've been working, so I'm gonna keep working. I don't need to announce it to the world. My mom has always written this quote on a piece of paper or cardstock, whatever, and posted it in every place that I've lived from when I was 17 till I was 22. And it said, tell the world what you intend to do, but first show it.
I like that one.
Yeah. And I've lived by it. We live in an age of information where you just kind of like share everything that you do. And I value that privacy. And I also value when you haven't shared what you're doing and you just come out and everybody's like, dang, I didn't know you were doing that. And it's like, yeah, I know.
I love that, Corey. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure. I'm so glad that I get to see you after
12 years.
Well, I'm not good at math, so yeah, 12.
Me either. That's why I teach English.
It's cool. Okay.
Great talking with you, Lauren. I look forward to meeting with you soon.
Thank you so much, Corey. Bye.
Bye.